war you're living through now is a war of silence, a war waged inside your skull. It's not fought with bullets, it's fought with beliefs, with lies dressed as logic, with distractions disguised as entertainment, with comfort designed to kill you slow. And if you're still waiting for a warning shot, this is it. You've been told the enemy is out there. Some political force, some economic downturn. But the real enemy? It's the voice in your head that talks you out of greatness. The program that keeps you average. The script you didn't write, but you've been living by for years. You were trained to be a servant to your own mind. But if you don't take it back, it will bury you beneath your potential and convince you that it was fate. This is not paranoia. This is awareness. Because in this new world, those who survive are not the richest, strongest, or loudest. They are the most mentally fortified. The ones who sharpen their focus like a blade. The ones who reprogram their subconscious to work like a weapon. The ones who stop reacting and start creating. This is the world war of the mind. And if you don't master yours, you will be mastered. Now that you understand the war you're in, it's time to do more than just survive. It's time to take control of the machine that's been running your life in the background. Not with surface-level advice, not with cheap motivation, but with precision, with fire, with truth. These 7 steps aren't just tools, they're weapons. Each one is designed to penetrate deep into your subconscious, rewire your inner code, and awaken the force you've been suppressing. So if you're ready to stop obeying your programming and start rewriting it, let's begin. Step 1. Hijack the first thought. They say how you start the day doesn't matter. They're wrong. Dead wrong. Because the first thought you have when you wake up is the first weapon drawn in the war for your mind. You don't wake up and become yourself. You wake up and remember who you were programmed to be. And most people, they remember weakness. They remember debt. They remember heartbreak. They remember failure. Before their feet hit the floor, they're already kneeling. Already surrendering to the mental architecture laid down over years of trauma, repetition, and quiet defeat. That first thought you hear, it's not just random noise. It's a signal. A broadcast from your subconscious that tells you everything you truly believe about your life, your future, and your power. So let me ask you something dangerous. What's the first thing your mind whispers when you wake up? Be honest. Is it clarity or confusion? Is it purpose or pressure? Is it discipline or delay? Because the answer to that question doesn't just reveal your mindset. It reveals your destiny. The battlefield of the day is rigged before you ever take your first conscious breath. That's why step 1 in mastering your subconscious is this. Hijack the first thought before the past hijacks you. The mechanics of the first thought. Here's what they never taught you in school. The first thought you experience each morning is not yours in the way you think it is. It is a deeply ingrained, pattern-based echo generated by your subconscious processing the most dominant themes from your internal world. Which means this. Your first thought is your operating system revealing itself before the mask goes on. It is raw, unfiltered, unedited by social performance or fake positivity. It is the closest thing to your true programming you will ever witness in real time. You want to see your inner blueprint? You don't need therapy. You don't need meditation. You need to watch yourself wake up, because that's where the mask slips. Here's the dangerous truth most people will never face. The day doesn't start when you wake up. The day starts the night before, when you unconsciously choose which version of yourself you'll hand over to the morning. If you go to sleep rehearsing pain, chaos, regret, you've just loaded the chamber. And the moment you open your eyes, the gun goes off, firing the same narrative into another 24-hour cycle. The invisible cost of losing the first battle. Let me break it down so there's no confusion. If you wake up and do nothing to intercept your first thought, you've already lost. Here's what that loss looks like. You start your day in reaction, not creation. You immediately lean on distraction, grabbing your phone to avoid the signal. You begin making micro decisions from a place of defense, not power. You reaffirm old programming that says, you're tired, you're late, you're behind. And because the subconscious thrives on repetition, you just gave it another data point to reinforce your internal prison. This is why people stay stuck for years, decades even. Because they lose the first 30 seconds of their morning. And that tiny surrender compounds into a lifetime of being half awake and half alive. Think about that. Most people aren't lazy. They're just caught in a loop. They don't realize they're still authorizing every single morning, hijacking the first thought, the battle plan. So now that we've ripped the veil off this trap, let's talk about how to break it. Here's your new protocol, one that bypasses passive mornings and forces your subconscious to respect you. 1. Wake with violence. Yes, violence. Not against others, not with rage, but with intensity, with decisiveness, with an immediate interruption of the old signal. When your eyes open, don't wait for a feeling. Feelings lie. Move. Sit up with force. Stand like you're rising from a battlefield, not a bed. The body leads the mind. If you move like you're in command, your brain will follow. Don't wait for motivation. Create momentum through motion. That's the first step. Kill hesitation before it has a heartbeat. 2. Speak the override command. Your voice is a frequency weapon. It activates power. It disrupts programming. It forces alignment between conscious and subconscious intention. So speak, out loud, something short, director, ruthless. Like, this is my mind. I choose what runs today. Or, I create reality. Now move. Or, no more loops. I control the signal. Say it with breath, with volume, with energy, not a whisper, not a weak mantra, a verbal strike that forces the subconscious to pay attention. Why? Because when you combine sound, emotion, and motion, you activate neuroplastic change. And that's how new wiring begins. 3. Lock in the new first thought. Now that you've cleared the static, you must install a replacement signal. Something deeper than a motivational quote. Something that drills identity into your operating system. Examples. I am not yesterday. I am the author of today. I am the system, and I decide what runs now. I've already won. Now I just collect the evidence. This is not positivity. This is tactical thought engineering. You're not thinking better. You're hijacking the gateway moment and planting new code. And once you repeat this new first thought, 30, 60, 90 days in a row, the subconscious adapts. It updates. It starts broadcasting a new identity without you even asking. That's the goal, to make the override automatic. 4. Deploy physical anchors. Your environment has hooks, and the subconscious clings to consistency. So give it physical anchors to reinforce the first thought. Place a symbol of your future identity beside your bed. A mask, a phrase, a journal, a token, something physical, unmissable. When you wake up and see it, your brain receives an immediate reminder. Oh, right. I'm not that old version anymore. I'm this. This is anchoring. And it's how you make the new signal stronger than the static of the past. 5. Do something that affirms the identity. Immediately. Thoughts mean nothing without action. The subconscious doesn't care what you say. It watches what you do. So within the first 5 minutes of waking, perform a micro-action that affirms the identity you want to reinforce. If you're building discipline, cold shower. If you're building leadership, send a direct message commanding respect. If you're building creativity, write a sentence. 1. If you're building power, do 10 push-ups, violently. This doesn't have to be long. It just has to exist. Why? Because the moment your thoughts, speech, and actions align, the subconscious accepts the new instruction. And when that happens, the old programming begins to decay, the result of winning the first battle. Imagine this. You wake up. There is no hesitation, no delay, no confusion, just movement, voice, power, identity, execution. You've already won the morning before the sun even rises. You're not trying to be great today. You've already decided you are, and the rest of the day is just proof collection. This is how kings think. This is how warriors move. This is how the elite build momentum, while others scroll through weakness. You hijack the first thought, and everything else obeys. Step 2. Interrupt the internal narrator. You're not good enough. That's not for people like you. Why even try? You'll fail like last time. You've heard it. Not once, not twice, thousands of times. But here's the disturbing part. It doesn't come from the outside anymore. It comes from within. From a voice so familiar, so consistent, so constant. You don't even question it. You don't challenge it. You obey it. And that's exactly how it wins. Most people are not broken by the world. They're broken by the narrator inside their mind. A voice that sounds like their own, but was trained by everything that ever tried to keep them small. It's not you. It's your programming. And it's time to destroy it. Who is the internal narrator? Let's rip the mask off. That voice in your head that speaks with authority. The one that tells you to play it safe, to back down, to wait until you're ready. That's not wisdom. That's not intuition. That's not caution. That's a parasite you inherited from the past. It was formed by the things you were told as a child, the trauma that went unprocessed, the criticism that hit deeper than you admitted, the shame that got repeated until it became your truth. The narrator is not logical. It is emotional memory turned into script. And that script has been playing on loop so long, you forgot it was a lie. Why most people never escape the narrator's control. Because the narrator is stealth. It doesn't yell. It doesn't shout. It whispers, just loud enough to steer your next move. Here's how it sounds. Maybe tomorrow. Let's just do a little more research first. They probably won't listen to you anyway. That's not realistic. You're being too ambitious. It hides inside logic. It wraps fear in justification. It's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to keep you exactly where you are. Safe, comfortable, mediocre. And if you let it speak unchallenged, it will direct your life from the shadows until the day you die. So let's put it on trial. Let's expose it. Let's interrupt the narrator. Permanently. The 5-part protocol for destroying the internal narrator. This isn't about thinking positively. This is about surgical demolition. You're not negotiating with the voice in your head. You're replacing it. Forcefully, strategically, daily. Let's go. 1. Recognize the pattern, not the words. The narrator doesn't always say the same thing, but it always feels the same. The key to identifying the narrator isn't listening to the exact sentence. It's recognizing the energetic fingerprint behind the message. Here's the pattern. The voice always shows up when you're about to act boldly. It speaks in a tone of protection, but produces paralysis. It appeals to logic, but activates fear. It tells you why not, and never why now. This voice wants safety, not growth, not greatness, not purpose. So the moment you feel that energy, that weight, that pull, that fog, label it. Say this: that's not me. That's the narrator. And I don't listen to it anymore. The more you can identify the voice as separate, the more power you reclaim. You don't defeat demons by dialoguing with them. You defeat them by seeing them clearly, then cutting off their air supply. Second strike with a verbal interrupt. Here's the truth. The brain operates like a machine. Patterns that go uninterrupted become highways. Neural grooves etched so deeply they fire automatically. To break the pattern, you must interrupt the groove mid-sentence. And the fastest way to do that? With sound. You must create a verbal jolt that disrupts the narrator's momentum. Here's how. When the voice starts feeding you doubt or delay, interrupt it out loud. Say, stop. That's a lie. Not this time. We don't run that script anymore. Wrong voice, wrong future. Why out loud? Because physical voice triggers different brain regions than inner thought. You're not just thinking back. You're fighting back, using your body to take command. This is not random. This is neurological warfare. 3. Move immediately. Break state through physiology. Words are only half the battle. Once you've spoken the interrupt, move. Physical action severs the narrator's loop and pulls your system out of the spell. Why? Because emotion is stored in the body, and most inner narratives are emotional habits, not rational ones. So once you hear the narrator and strike it verbally, stand up, pace, clap, slam the table, drop for push-ups, shout, run cold water, whatever it takes to override the stillness that allows the voice to thrive. Think of it like this. The narrator grows in stillness. The narrator dies in movement. You don't think your way out of internal war. You move your way out. You become kinetic, violent, unavailable to weakness. 4. Rewire the line with an identity statement. Now comes the installation. You've interrupted the script. You've destroyed the rhythm. But if you leave the space empty, it'll fill back in with the same poison. So now, you speak the new line, the one you choose, the one that builds, not breaks. This isn't a mantra. This is an identity command. Examples. I speak from fire and act from clarity. I've evolved beyond hesitation. My voice is law, internally and externally. I am the architect of my signal. My decisions are rooted in vision, not fear. Say it slowly. Breathe it in. Feel the body respond. That's when you know it's landing. You're not just affirming a new belief. You're reprogramming a default setting. 5. Make the narrator work for you. Here's the ultimate move. You don't just silence the narrator. You enslave it. What if every time that voice spoke, instead of triggering doubt, it triggered war mode? You condition yourself like this. Next time the narrator says, "You'll probably fail," you respond, "Good. I'll build through failure faster than they'll ever start." If it says, "They'll laugh at you," you say, "Let them. Their laughter sharpens my teeth." This is called narrative transmutation, turning mental weakness into fuel. Over time, the voice becomes your fire alarm, a signal that you're on the right path, because resistance is proof of movement. That's the end goal. Not to delete the voice, but to rewire it into a weapon that obeys your direction. Rituals to maintain narrator control. Like any system, you need rituals to keep it functioning at full power. Here are 3 to maintain narrator dominance. 1. Journal the lies. Burn the script. Every night, write down the top 3 internal lies you heard that day. I'm not ready. This is too much. No one cares what I have to say. Then write the truth next to them, with emotion, with venom, with clarity. And once a week, burn the page. Why? Because your subconscious respects ritual. Burning the script tells the inner world, this version of me has expired. 2. Record your own voice of power. Use your phone. Record your own affirmations, but not softly. Say them with fire, with command, with finality. Play them every morning, every night, until your voice becomes the only one your subconscious recognizes. This isn't affirmation. This is identity immersion. You're flooding your system with undeniable proof that the narrator no longer runs the show. 3. Change the language of thought. The narrator thrives on certain words. I can't. Maybe. I'll try. Someday. Eliminate them. Replace them with, I choose. I decide. I build. I finish. I lead. I dominate. Language is not cosmetic. It's structural. It rewires the brain's map of possibility. Speak differently, and your mind will respond differently. Step 3. Collapse your personal myth. You think you know who you are. You don't. What you know is the story you've been told. A myth whispered into your ear by people who gave up on themselves. A script handed to you before you had the power to reject it. A voice that said, you're shy. You're average. You're not a leader. You're just like your father. You're not built for that. And you believed it. Not because it was true, but because it was repeated. Now you wear it like a skin. You defend it like it's your identity. You live inside it like a prison with invisible bars. But here's the truth they never told you. You are not your story. You are the author. And the story can be rewritten if you have the guts to burn the original. This is step 3, collapsing your personal myth. And make no mistake, this is not self-help. This is psychological warfare against the version of you that was never real to begin with. The power and danger of personal myth. Humans are not logical creatures. We're narrative creatures. We don't wake up and run programs of truth. We wake up and run stories. Deep emotional stories that define what's possible and what's not. Here's what a myth is. A myth is a psychological blueprint. It's a story so embedded in your subconscious that it becomes your default setting. It dictates how much success you believe you deserve, how much love you're willing to accept, how much money you subconsciously feel safe receiving, how much pain you'll tolerate before you say, enough, how much power you're allowed to embody before you feel like a fraud. Most people don't live in reality. They live inside myths, their subconscious accepted as reality. And until those myths are shattered, No amount of motivation, productivity, or planning will stick. Why? Because they are trying to build a new life on a rotting foundation. So today, right now, we dig up the myth. We expose it. We gut it. We collapse it. The four faces of the false myth. To collapse the myth, you must first see it. And most myths come in one of four disguises. 1. The wounded child myth. I'm this way because of what happened to me. This myth is built on pain. It says, because I was hurt, I am broken. Because I was broken, I must play small. It uses trauma as identity. It justifies weakness. It creates an emotional reward for staying wounded. Attention, sympathy, excuses. And worst of all, it convinces you that healing would somehow betray the people or moments that shaped your scars. This myth must be destroyed through one realization. You are not what hurt you. You are what you build from it. The inherited myth. This is just how we are. Passed down like a virus. Maybe your family didn't talk about money. Maybe they feared success. Maybe they hated people who stood out. Maybe they were never taught how to lead, so they mocked anyone who tried. And without knowing it, you absorbed that myth, made it yours. Let it write your script in silence. This is identity by inheritance. A lazy, dangerous form of psychological surrender. And the only way to break it is to realize you do not owe loyalty to a myth that kills your evolution. Your bloodline is not your boundary. 3. The repeated failure. Myth. I've tried before and it didn't work. This is the myth built from memory. You failed. You were rejected. You didn't rise fast enough. So you took that single experience and turned it into a universal law. Your subconscious filed it under. This is how life works. This is what happens when you try. And so you stop trying. Or worse, you tried in ways that guaranteed failure, just to prove the myth right. But here's the truth. Your past failure wasn't a verdict. It was feedback. Stop rereading the same chapter. The story isn't over unless you let the myth become the ending. The fragile success myth. If I get too big, I'll lose everything. Yes, even success becomes a myth trap. This one says, you're only safe when you're small. If you stand out, they'll tear you down. If you win too loud, they'll cancel you, rob you, mock you, or betray you. So you self-sabotage. You aim low. You succeed just enough to avoid pain, then pull back. This myth is dangerous because it masquerades as humility, but it's fear, disguised, and the subconscious eats it like candy. Collapse it. Success is not dangerous. Cowardice is. The collapse protocol. 5 tactical phases. Here is your step-by-step demolition process. Use it like a warrior sharpening a blade. Because you're not just changing your mindset, you're eliminating your limits at the root. Phase 1. Name the myth. Out loud. The first step is exposure. You must drag the myth out of the shadows and make it stand trial. Write it. Speak it. Make it tangible. Examples. I believe I'm not capable of running my own business. I believe I'm doomed to repeat the mistakes of my parents. I believe if I shine too bright, I'll be attacked. Once it's spoken, you rob it of its invisibility. Now, attack it. Ask, who gave this to me? What event cemented it in me? Has it ever served me? Who profits if I keep believing it? This is how you begin the dissection. Phase 2. Break the myth physically. Your subconscious doesn't change from thoughts. It changes from experience. So you need a ritual of destruction. Burn the written myth. Shred it. Rip it up. Stomp it into the dirt. Throw it into a river. Smash a symbol that represents the old version of you. Why? Because physical rituals create emotional proof. And emotion is what programs the subconscious. When you physically destroy the old myth, your body registers. We're done with that identity. This is how cultures have passed down transformation for centuries. Through action, not theory. Phase 3. Replace the myth with an archetype. You don't just remove the old identity. You install a new one. But not just a list of goals. Not just affirmations. You need a character. An internal archetype that embodies everything you're becoming. Give it a name. Give it a posture. Give it a voice. This is not faking it. This is becoming it, through immersive identity shift. Examples: the architect, strategic, emotionless, precise. The flame, powerful, loud, impossible to ignore. The ghost, silent, efficient, untraceable, unstoppable. Step into that archetype like armor. Speak from it, move from it, decide from it, until the myth doesn't just collapse, it evaporates. Phase 4. Create the opposite pattern. Myths thrive on evidence, so give your subconscious new evidence. If your myth said you can't lead, lead in public. Now, if your myth said you're not consistent, stack 30 straight days of execution. No breaks, no apologies. If your myth said you'll never be free, eliminate one chain today, right now. Debt, job, relationship, addiction. Cut something. Every time you do the opposite of the myth, your subconscious adapts, and eventually, it rewires to follow your actions, not your history. This is not theory. This is biological correction, and it's how you reprogram yourself from myth to monster. Phase 5. Speak the new law daily. You've burned the myth. You've taken action. Now you declare the law. Every morning, every night, until your nervous system stops flinching and starts believing. Say, I am no longer what they told me to be. My myth has collapsed. My reality is forged. I don't identify with the old version of me. I command the new one. This is not a pep talk. This is programming. And repetition is the only way to drive it deep. Step 4. Reverse your trigger points. Everyone has a switch. Some call it a mood. Others call it a bad day. But let's be honest. What they're really describing is this. They got triggered, and they let the trigger pull the trigger on them. Let me explain. You're walking through your day, calm, composed, and suddenly something flips. A comment, a glance, a number on a bank statement, a deadline, a tone in someone's voice. And just like that, you're not present anymore. You're not powerful. You're not focused. You're pulled backward into rage, fear, overthinking, panic, self-doubt, or shutdown. The day didn't destroy you. A trigger did. And because you haven't reversed that trigger, it owns you. It controls you. It dictates how far you rise, how fast you move, how much power you can hold. So if you want to activate your subconscious and dominate your reality, you can't just avoid your triggers. You must weaponize them. That's what we're doing now. This is step 4. Reverse your trigger points. The truth about triggers. Here's what most people don't understand. A trigger is not a weakness. It's a signal. A flare shot into your mental sky, screaming, "This, right here, is the door to your evolution." But you were never taught to see it that way. You were trained to hide from it, to collapse under it, to run from it or lash out through it. And so the trigger became a weapon, not in your hands, but in the hands of your subconscious conditioning. Think of it like this. Every trigger is a loop initiator. Once activated, it sends you into a pre-programmed cycle. One you didn't create. One you may not even be aware of. And that loop determines how long you procrastinate, whether you push forward or shut down, whether you speak up or stay small, whether you self-destruct or self-command. And here's the terrifying part. Most people go their whole lives without even knowing what their triggers are. So today, we don't just face them, we flip them. We take the subconscious software that was once an ambush and turn it into an automatic weapon for dominance. The Trigger Reversal Protocol. There are 5 phases to this reversal process. Each one builds on the last, until your most powerful triggers stop derailing you and start defining your next level. Let's go. Phase 1. Identify your top triggers with brutal clarity. You can't reverse what you can't name. And most people never slow down enough to diagnose the battlefield. So first, scan your life. Ask, what consistently pulls me out of focus? What moments activate self-sabotage? What patterns repeat every time I try to level up? What makes me emotionally spiral, even when I try to stay calm? Examples of subtle but deadly triggers. The sound of your phone buzzing at night. Opening your bank app. Seeing a couple when you're alone. Seeing someone else succeed in your space. Being left on red. Starting a task that feels too complex. Being in silence too long. Having too much free time. These are not inconveniences. They are your mind's booby traps. And if you don't disarm them, they will keep detonating at the worst possible moments. So make a list. Top 5. Be specific. Not I get stressed, but I feel like shutting down when I see someone else getting attention while I feel invisible. Not I get anxious, but when I have multiple deadlines, I freeze and distract myself. Because the more specific the trigger, the more precise the reversal. Phase 2. Map the loop. It sends you into. Every trigger activates a loop. Let's say your trigger is being ignored. You message someone, they don't reply. Boom, triggered. What's the loop? For most, it might go something like this. Instant micro-fear. I said something wrong. Mental replay of the message. Emotional spiral. They're losing respect for me. Maybe I'm too much. Identity drop. This is why I keep my guard up. Inaction. Shutdown. Silence. And here's what's wild. This all happens in under 10 seconds. And then, your day is derailed. Not by someone ignoring you, but by a loop that you never rewrote. You must map these loops like a general planning a war campaign, because you can't win a battle you haven't studied. So for each of your 5 triggers, map out. What is the first emotion it activates? What thought does that emotion pull in? What behavior does that thought lead to? What result does that behavior always produce? This is how you find your internal sabotage architecture. Phase 3. Interrupt the loop with a counter response. Here's where things get powerful. Your subconscious will keep running the loop unless you install a new outcome at the trigger point. This is called countercoding. It works like this. Let's say your loop says, when I feel overwhelmed, I scroll to avoid thinking. Your countercode is, when I feel overwhelmed, I close my eyes for 60 seconds and force stillness, then write my next move. Why? Because this tells the subconscious, we don't run anymore. We respond now. Or let's say your loop says, when I feel like someone disrespects me, I rage internally and fantasize about revenge. Your countercode becomes, when I feel disrespected, I redirect energy into production. I make progress visible. That's my revenge. You're not controlling your emotions. You're rerouting them toward power. Each time the trigger hits, you intercept the loop before it can spiral. And eventually, the loop dies, and your counter code becomes the new default. Phase 4. Anchor the reversal physically. You want this transformation to stick. Attach it to your body. The body is the gateway to subconscious reprogramming. So every time you get triggered, pair your new response with physical movement. Examples: clench your fists, then release, reminding your system you control the tension. Snap your fingers or clap loudly when the thought begins, breaking the trance. Take 5 sharp breaths and say, redirect. Now, do a physical task, push-ups, sit-ups, jump squats, anything to attach effort to emotion. This does something critical. It links your new response to a kinesthetic signal. And the more you pair movement with your counter code, the faster your subconscious will adopt it as the new loop. This is called behavioral anchoring, and it's how you make rewiring stick. Phase 5. Reframe the trigger into a success signal. This is the final phase. This is where you go from defense to domination. You don't just intercept the trigger. You welcome it. You use it. You reframe it like this. Every time I get triggered, it means I'm on the edge of evolution. You train your system to associate the trigger with opportunity, growth, expansion, activation. Because here's the hidden truth. Triggers show you where your subconscious still believes in limits. So now when the trigger comes, you smirk, you lean in, you say, there it is, my next breakthrough. You grab the signal and forge power from it. And once your subconscious starts to believe that triggers equal transformation, you become unstoppable. Because nothing shakes you. Everything shapes you. Trigger reversal. Templates. Here are a few examples you can use and adapt to your own mental battlefield. Trigger. Seeing someone else succeed. Old loop. Envy, comparison, self-criticism, inaction. Counter code. Use their win as proof it's possible. Fuel up. Execute harder. Anchor. Clap hands. Say their win does not reduce mine. I build. Trigger. Overwhelmed from too many tasks. Old loop. Freeze. Delay. Guilt. Burnout. Counter code. Do one thing, then one more. Chaos dies in motion. Anchor. Snap fingers. Take 3 deep breaths. Move one item. Trigger. Being misunderstood or ignored. Old loop. Overthinking, people-pleasing, silence, resentment. Counter code. I clarify my message. If they don't see it, I keep building. Anchor. Touch chest. Say, I speak from power, not permission. Step 5. Reassign meaning to your pain. There's a truth they never tell you about pain. A truth so raw, so deep. Most people spend their entire lives running from it. Pain doesn't break you. It builds your belief system. Let that sink in. Pain is not just an experience. It's a teacher, a sculptor, a code writer, imprinting instructions directly onto your subconscious. And here's the part that should disturb you. The majority of your identity was formed during your most painful moments. Not your most joyful, not your most inspired, your darkest, your lowest, your most helpless hours. So if you're wondering why you hesitate, why you shut down, why you keep choosing average over elevation, look there, at the memory you've buried, at the wound you pretended didn't exist. Because that's where the code was written. And until you change the meaning of that pain, your mind will keep obeying its original instructions. Don't get too close. Don't try again. Don't speak up. Don't trust. Don't expand. No matter how hard you work, no matter how many goals you write, if pain is still writing your script, you're still a prisoner. That ends now. This is step 5. Reassign meaning to your pain. And when we're done here, you won't just survive what hurt you. You'll weaponize it. The hidden language of pain. Pain speaks in commands. It says, never again. Don't go there. Shrink. Avoid. Protect. But those commands aren't rational. They're emotional. And the subconscious doesn't run on logic. It runs on repetition and emotion. Which means this. The story you attach to pain becomes your operating system. And most people attach the wrong story. They attach stories like, I failed because I'm not capable. I was abandoned because I'm not worthy. I got hurt because I let people in. I lost because I aimed too high. These stories seem like truth, but they're not. They're emotional conclusions, formed under pressure, locked in through suffering. And the longer those stories go unchallenged, the deeper they embed into identity. Pain becomes a belief factory. Here's how it works. The experience. Something happens. Trauma, loss, betrayal, humiliation, failure. The feeling. You experience pain, sharp, intense, personal. The conclusion. Your brain demands a reason. You write one. The code. That reason is accepted by the subconscious and reinforced. The pattern. The code creates behavior. Fear, doubt, avoidance. The identity. The behavior becomes you. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. That's the cost of pain left unexamined. Not just suffering, but self-limitation. But here's what separates warriors from victims. A victim accepts the story pain tells. A warrior rewrites the script and takes command. And that's what we're doing now. The reassignment protocol. Turning pain into power. We're not here to numb pain. We're not here to escape it. We're here to extract meaning from it, to rip it apart, dissect it, and forge a new signal from its wreckage. Let's break it down, step by brutal step. Phase 1. Return to the original pain point. You cannot reassign what you refuse to face. You must return to the original wound. The moment the code was written. It might be the moment you failed in front of everyone. The relationship that ended without closure. The parent who left. The opportunity you destroyed. The time you needed help and no one came. Whatever it is, go there. Feel it. Not to drown in it, but to locate the lie. Because inside every moment of pain is a belief you accepted as law. You must expose it. Write this. The moment was. The pain felt like. The belief I formed from that pain was a wurswinch. This is how you find the root. You don't pull weeds by cutting them at the surface. You dig. Phase 2. Challenge the original meaning. Here's where the fire begins. Once you've identified the original belief, you challenge it with facts, with force, with violence. Ask, was this belief created from truth or fear? Who benefits from me keeping this belief alive? Has this belief ever moved me forward? What's the cost of continuing to believe it? This is intellectual warfare. You're not healing, you're interrogating. Because the belief that I failed, so I'm a failure, was never truth. It was pain's translation. It was a panic-induced conclusion your younger self made to survive. But now, you don't need survival. You need dominance. Phase 3. Extract the real gift. Every pain, every single one, holds a hidden instruction. You were meant to learn something from it. But the lesson wasn't what you first believed. So now you ask, what was this pain trying to give me that I didn't see? It might have been resilience, independence, self-awareness, standards, hunger, direction fire. When you extract this meaning, you upgrade the code. Instead of, I was abandoned because I'm unlovable, you write, I was abandoned so I'd stop outsourcing my worth. Instead of, I lost because I wasn't good enough, you write, I lost because I was playing on a level that required evolution, and I evolved. Instead of, I was broken, you write, I was forged. This is called reassignment. You are not rewriting history. You're redefining what it did to you. Phase 4. Install the new command. Now that you've extracted the truth, you must embed it into your subconscious with repetition. This is not about affirmations. This is about identity warfare. Create a single sentence, a command that reflects the upgraded meaning. Examples. Everything they took from me built what I needed to rise. Pain was my signal. Now it's my sword. I use every scar as proof of my capacity. I didn't get weaker. I got sharper. Repeat this line every morning, every night, every time the old story shows its face. Why? Because the subconscious obeys dominant input, and dominant input comes from emotional repetition. You're not reciting words, you're writing law. Phase 5. Link progress to the pain origin. You want to weaponize the pain fully? Link your progress to it. Make it fuel your movement. Say, I built this because of what I survived. I earned this power through that fire. They created a monster, and now I'm feeding it results. This turns pain into ritual. You stop running from the wound. You bow to it. You honor it. You use it. Because when your pain becomes your power source, no one can stop you. Not people, not failure, not fear. You cannot be broken, because you already were, and you rebuilt yourself differently. Tactical exercises for reassignment. Here are 3 high-impact rituals to drive this transformation deeper. 1. The pain conversion letter. Write a letter from your current self to your wounded self. Explain what the pain actually did for you, how it elevated you, how it sharpened you, what you built because of it. Then burn it. The burning represents release from the old meaning. 2. Anchor the pain memory to a physical trigger. Every time you feel the old pain creep up, touch a specific object or place your hand over your heart. Say, this pain is my power. Watch what I do with it. This physical cue will link empowerment to the trigger, reconditioning the emotional association. 3. Revisit the battlefield. If safe, go back to the location tied to your original pain. Stand there. Speak your new belief out loud. Own the space. This is called spatial reprogramming. It tells the subconscious, we're not afraid of this place anymore. We own it now. Step 6. Install invisible rituals. The most dangerous people on earth don't need motivation. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't ask the world for permission. Because they've built something deeper, something darker, something invisible. A system of rituals so embedded in their lives, they no longer need to decide who they are each day. They simply are. Not because of some miracle, not because of talent, but because they understand this truth. What you repeat in silence becomes your identity in public. And if you're serious about mastering your subconscious, you can't just think differently. You must act differently, automatically, relentlessly, subconsciously. You must stop relying on motivation and start building a system that works when you're exhausted, when you're under pressure, when everything else is falling apart. This is the system of invisible rituals. This is step 6. And if you implement it, you will never wake up as the same person again. Why motivation fails and rituals don't. Let's make one thing clear. You don't rise by doing what's intense. You rise by doing what's unavoidable. Most people still think success is about pushing harder, grinding longer, getting more hyped, drinking more caffeine, reading more books. Wrong. That's just adrenaline addiction, and it always burns out. The elite don't run on hype. They run on systems. And those systems are built from rituals, not willpower. Why? Because willpower is like a battery. It drains. It fades. It dies when pressure spikes. But rituals bypass willpower. They operate in the subconscious zone, triggered by cues, not feelings. If you want to create permanent change, if you want to become lethal without needing to feel like it, then your success must be embedded into the rituals no one sees. This is how we do it. The anatomy of an invisible ritual. An invisible ritual has 3 parts. The trigger, a cue, internal or external, that sets the ritual in motion. The action, a short, meaningful behavior that aligns with the identity you're building. The reward, not dopamine, but reinforcement of your new operating code. These rituals are subtle. You could be standing next to someone doing them and have no idea they're rewiring their subconscious. They don't take hours. They don't require planning. They require intention and consistency. Now let's walk through how to build and deploy them. Anytime, anywhere. The Ritual Installation Protocol. This 5-part system turns everyday actions into identity reinforcement tools. Let's begin. Phase 1. Define the core identity you want to reinforce. Rituals are useless without direction. You must first define what identity you're trying to install. Be precise. Not successful, not better, not motivated. Those are vague abstractions. They don't move the needle. Instead say, I am the kind of person who executes no matter what. I am emotionally bulletproof and act with control. I am the architect of structure and precision. I move in silence and dominate in output. Pick one identity to build first. One code you want to live and breathe. Then we attach that identity to ritualized behavior. Phase 2. Choose 3 anchor points you encounter every day. You don't need new routines. You need new meanings attached to your existing ones. Look at your day. Identify 3 anchor points that happen no matter what. Brushing your teeth, unlocking your phone, starting your car, walking through a doorway, looking in a mirror, making coffee, touching your keys, sitting down to work, taking your first sip of water, ending a phone call. These are anchor points, and you already do them without thinking. That's the key. We're not adding complexity. We're hijacking existing patterns to install new power signals. This is how you begin turning ordinary life into an operating system of dominance. Phase 3. Design micro-rituals for each anchor. For every anchor point, design a 5-second ritual tied to your identity code. Here are examples. Anchor, unlocking your phone. Ritual, whisper, I only use this device for power. Why? Redirects your subconscious away from distraction and toward output. Anchor, walking through a door. Ritual, exhale forcefully. Think, enter with command. Why? Conditions your body to see every space as yours to control. Anchor, touching your keys. Ritual, think, I have access to any room I choose to enter, physical or psychological. Why? Associates ownership and forward motion with your mobility. Anchor, turning on your computer. Ritual, say, the world changes because of what I create here. Why? Installs purpose before distraction can hijack your mind. Anchor, drinking water. Ritual, whisper, fuel for precision. Why? Turns a basic act into an intentional identity confirmation. Each ritual is short, repeatable, and emotional. The power isn't in how dramatic they are, it's in how frequently they occur, because every repetition is another neural pathway reinforced. Phase 4. Link emotional energy to the ritual. Now you deepen the groove. Each time you do the ritual, attach emotion. Not fake hype, but alignment. Close your eyes for a second. Picture your future self. Feel the pride of already being that version. Then complete the ritual with clarity. Why? Because repetition alone builds habit. But emotion plus repetition builds identity. If you want your subconscious to obey, it has to feel like this ritual matters. Anchor it in intensity, even if it's silent, even if no one sees it, especially when no one sees it. Phase 5. Stack and scale. Once 3 rituals are embedded, you scale. But here's the trick. You don't add random habits. You stack rituals into clusters, creating a power sequence. Here's an example. Morning ritual stack. Wake. Sit up fast. Say, command the signal. Bathroom mirror. Look into your eyes. Say, still here. Still rising. Water. Sip slowly. Whisper. Fuel for strategy. Phone. Unlock. Say, this is not a toy. This is a tool. Open planner. Write your top move. Say, this shapes the outcome. This sequence takes 2 minutes, but it creates layers of identity confirmation stacked before the world even wakes up. Now you don't try to be focused. You already are, because your subconscious has no other option. You installed the loop. Special Forces rituals, advanced tactics. For those ready to go deeper, these are advanced invisible ritual techniques to embed power even further. First, ritual passwords. Change your phone or computer password to something identity-based. Examples: execute no matter what. Discipline over emotion. Cold calm focus 22. I am the architect. Now every time you log in, your subconscious sees the signal. No escape. No forgetting. It's everywhere. Second shadow mirror ritual. Pick one mirror in your home. Every time you pass it, stop. Look into your own eyes for 3 seconds. Say one line, out loud or in your head. Examples: I trust this mind. You've survived worse. Now build. They don't see it yet. Let them sleep. I control everything I touch. Mirror rituals, anchor, self-command, and self-respect. 2 traits most people will never master. Third, end-of-day identity lock. Before you sleep, perform one ritual to reinforce your subconscious state. Examples: write down 3 wins, even small ones. Say, this is what consistency looks like. Close your eyes. Replay one power moment from the day. Whisper, more of this tomorrow. Review your micro failures and say, adjustments made. Weapon sharper. Why? Because the subconscious continues processing for hours after you sleep. What you feed it last becomes what it obsesses over in the dark. Give it signal, not static. Step 7. Break the time illusion. They told you to be patient. They told you your time will come. They told you to wait, plan, think, prepare. But what they didn't tell you is that time is a trap. And the longer you believe in the lie of later, the longer you'll stay shackled to the identity of who you were yesterday. You see, the mind doesn't live in the future. The subconscious doesn't respond to hopes, plans, or wishes. It only responds to now, to what you believe and embody in this moment. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. So if you say, one day I'll be great, one day I'll be confident, one day I'll be powerful, your subconscious says, understood. That's always in the future. I'll keep you powerless now. That's the illusion, the trap, the loop. This is why the world is full of intelligent, talented, capable people who never change. Because they're playing with shadows on the wall, while the real switch sits in the present, untouched. So today we end it. The waiting, the rehearsing, the endless loading screen of becoming. This is step 7. Break the time illusion, the subconscious and the present moment. To reprogram the subconscious, you need to understand one fundamental principle. The subconscious cannot distinguish between what is imagined and what is real, if you feel it deeply enough. It doesn't care about the date. It doesn't track a calendar. It doesn't know what day it is. It only knows what you embody emotionally, right now. It follows what you believe to be true, act as if it's true, and repeat as true. So if you consistently speak, move, and decide as if you are powerful, it accepts power as reality and builds everything else to match that perception. If you consistently think, act, and feel like a victim, it builds reinforcement for that too. This is why people who constantly complain only attract more reasons to complain. Why people who carry shame subconsciously sabotage success. Why people who keep saying one day never arrive at that day. They're using time as a permission slip to stay small. They're confusing planning with postponing. But your subconscious doesn't deal in delay. It only obeys what it sees repeated. How the time illusion destroys you. Let's break down what happens when you believe in time as a separator between who you are and who you want to be. You install the idea that your desired identity is not available now. You act in ways that match your current, limited self-perception. Your subconscious takes those repeated behaviors and locks in your current self as truth. You look for motivation or timing to feel ready, further reinforcing you're not it yet. You hesitate, you delay, you prepare, and time passes. Eventually, you lose belief that the future version will ever arrive. And then, you settle, quietly, tragically. This is how potential becomes a prison. And it all begins with postponing embodiment. Embodiment versus aspiration. Let me make something very clear. You don't rise by aspiring. You rise by embodying. Aspiration says, I want to be. Embodiment says, I already am. And everything I do confirms it. Aspiration is future tensed. It's I'll try. I'll get there. I hope. Embodiment is now. It's posture. It's voice. It's how you breathe, how you move, how you command. The subconscious only builds from now energy. So if you're serious about breaking the cycle, you must stop chasing your identity and start wearing it. Like armor, like law, like war paint. The embodiment protocol. Collapse time into action. This protocol is how you break the illusion of time and rewire your subconscious to operate as if your desired identity is already locked in. We will walk through 5 tactical phases that force embodiment and eliminate delay-based thinking forever. Phase 1. Create a sensory blueprint of your future self. You don't need vague goals. You need visceral clarity. Ask, how does my future self breathe? How does my future self walk into a room? What words do they never say? What does their environment look, feel, and smell like? What do they no longer tolerate? What is their morning ritual? What do they radiate, energy-wise? Write it down, in brutal, granular detail. This is not visualization for fun. This is identity simulation. You're building a command model to train your subconscious. Because once the image is built in detail, your mind has something to obey. Phase 2. Perform a daily identity drop-in. Every morning before the world grabs your attention, step into that future self on purpose. This is how. Close your eyes. Breathe as your future self would. Slow. Controlled. Drop your shoulders. Unlock the jaw. Hear their voice. Say what they would say. Picture their decisions. Make one now. Stay there for 5 minutes. No distractions. Just embodiment. This becomes your priming ritual. And over time, the subconscious starts building habits to match that version of you. Not because it's real, but because it's repeated. Phase 3. Collapse future goals into present tasks. Here's how most people set goals. In 6 months, I'll be confident. By next year, I'll be financially free. In 3 months, I'll be consistent. Trash it. This builds distance, and distance kills embodiment. Instead, ask, if I already were confident, what would I do today? If I already were financially free, how would I move my money today? If I already were disciplined, what would I choose instead of delay today? Now do that, immediately, without negotiation. You don't act toward the goal. You act from the goal, as if it's already true. This flips your internal posture. You stop striving. You start operating. And that's how reality begins to bend. Phase 4. Build identity checkpoints into your environment. You don't rise because you think differently once. You rise because you think differently constantly. So install checkpoints in your day to pull you back into identity. Examples. Every time you wash your hands, look in the mirror. Whisper. Stay in character. Before every meal, ask, is this how my future self eats? Every time you open a browser tab, say, build from purpose. When your alarm goes off, say, move now. They're not catching up. These are micro reminders to stop the backslide, to break the autopilot, to interrupt time before it resets you to your old self. Phase 5. Close the day with embodied proof. Most people go to bed wondering if they did enough. That ends now. Every night, ask, what did I do today that confirmed my new identity? What thought did I kill that kept me on path? What action did I take without waiting? Write it down. Speak it. Feel it. Why? Because you're showing your subconscious. I'm not becoming. I already am. You are feeding it evidence, and evidence becomes belief. Advanced embodiment techniques. If you're ready to turn this into an unshakable system, here are advanced strategies. 1. Act as if you're being watched by your future self. Throughout the day, ask, if my future self were watching me right now, what would they think? Would they respect this decision? Would they allow this habit? Would they stay silent in this room? This instantly collapses time. It turns your highest version into a constant companion. Not a fantasy, a witness. 2. Leave voice memos from your future self. Open your phone. Hit record. Speak as your future self to your current self. Say, you've already won. You just have to hold the line. This is the part where you stay sharp. This is the test. I'm you, 6 months from now, and I'm thanking you for not folding. Replay it every morning. This is time travel in audio format. You're anchoring your path with your own voice, projected forward. It creates a time loop of certainty. Third, engage in temporal compression rituals. Once per week, spend 30 minutes living fully as your future self. Dress like them. Eat what they eat. Speak how they speak. Do what they do. Move how they move. Sit like they sit. Plan like they plan. No phones. No distractions. No breaks. This is temporal compression, pulling the future into the now so deeply, your subconscious can't tell the difference. The more you compress the future into the present, the more your reality obeys your identity, not your past. They told you to find yourself, to chase purpose, to wait for clarity, to heal first, to feel ready. But now you see the truth. You don't find yourself. You build yourself. And you don't do it with wishes or luck. You do it by mastering the invisible engine running your life. Your subconscious. You've just been given the 7 keys to command it. And if you internalize these, truly, you will never walk as the same person again. Let's break it down one last time. Step 1. Hijack the first thought. Because if you don't dominate your mind the moment you wake up, your past will, and the loop will reset. Every day begins with war. Win it early, or lose everything. Step 2. Interrupt the internal narrator. There's a voice inside you that was trained to keep you small. It doesn't care about your dreams. It only knows your wounds. Interrupt it. Override it. Replace it. Or it will run your life disguised as your own voice. Step 3. Collapse your personal myth. You are not your story. You are the author. Burn the scripts you inherited. Shatter the myths you've protected. The old identity must die, so the new one can walk free. Step 4. Reverse your trigger points. Triggers aren't enemies. They're signals, but only if you rewire them. Flip the fear. Flip the shutdown. Flip the spiral. Turn every emotional ambush into a command for evolution. Step 5. Reassign meaning to your pain. Pain didn't break you. It built your beliefs. Change the meaning. Strip out the lie. Forge new power from the same fire that once tried to kill you. That's how you turn suffering into sovereignty. Step 6. Install invisible rituals. Forget motivation. You need systems, triggers, loops, rituals that operate when you're tired, broken, or doubting. Quiet repetitions in the shadows that build loud power in public. You don't rise through intensity, you rise through identity automation. Step 7. Break the time illusion. Stop postponing. The future doesn't arrive, it's activated. Now is all that exists. Collapse the distance. Move as if you are already the version you want to become. Because when you do, reality has no choice but to obey. This is the blueprint, the architecture of transformation, the demolition of illusion, the rise of command. These are not steps. They are weapons. You've now seen what most will never see. You've felt what most will never feel. You've been handed the code that turns intention into embodiment. So now, there's only one question left. Will you run the program? Or will the old program run you? This is your line in the sand. Decide. Commit. Building. Because you are no longer the dreamer. You are the engine, the signal, the source. Welcome to GrimFace. We don't wait. We reprogram everything. Let the world keep sleeping. We've already started building.